Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah, that's right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, December 8th. Today is National Crossword Solvers Day, Bodie Day, National Brownie Day. Not sure if they're talking about the brownies or the brownies. And today is also Pretend to be a Time Traveler Day. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms, especially right here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and like. We're live every Monday through Friday. And we're also live on Clubhouse. And if you are joining on Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. We have a big full day of news, so let's pay a quick bill so we can get right back to the news.
Yeah.
When you want to grow some of the best weed in the world, then you must start with the best genetics in the world. Go to www.dnagenetics.shop to order regular, feminized, or autoflower beans. All of your favorite DNA genetics cultivars such as Kosher Kush, Skywalker Kush, and oh yeah, Chocolate Truffle Shuffle. Boasting more cannabis awards for their award-winning genetics than any other company in the world. Remember to go to www.dnagenetics.shop to see why our terps don't lie. Oh, yeah. Coming up first, it is the dope dad himself. When he's not babysitting his children, sharing paste, and making macaroni artwork, or maybe even eating crayons. You never know. You can find him at a TEDx convention, babying grown-ass adults, doing the exact same thing, but just at a bigger table with bigger chairs. That's right. But today he has a big breaking news story that is capturing the world by storm. And so let's get to him. It is the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate the intro, Jason. And big news for today. This is coming from CBS News. Brittney Griner released by Russia in a 1-for-1 prisoner swap for arms dealer Viktor Bout. Brittney Griner is going home. She is headed home. After being held for months between Russian detention centers and prison on drug charges, CBS News reported the WNBA star was released early this morning in a 1-for-1 prisoner swap for the international arms dealer, Merchant of Death, Viktor Bout. I struggled finding words for this morning for my approach in covering today's story, and I knew there'd be several people online, maybe even on our show, trying to detract from how much of a victory Griner's release is for the Black and queer communities, and that's okay. Freedom of speech, the right to openly express your own opinions, is one of the many things that makes America such an awesome place to be for citizens and visitors alike. U.S. Marine Paul Whelan was imprisoned in Russia. He's been in custody for nearly 4 years. He was convicted on espionage charges that the U.S. has called false. But before we dive into comparing her, Brittney Griner, to others who should also be going home, I want to talk about the origins of whataboutism. The term is considered a form of logical fallacy called to cook, Latin for you also, or more commonly in present day, and so are you. Whataboutism's origin takes us back to 1978, where it was used by the Soviet Union as Cold War propaganda, as a tactic to paint the United States in a negative light whenever our media would criticize them. When we call them out for human rights abuses and oppression, the Soviet Union would respond by pointing out crimes committed in America's past and present, like racism or lynchings. So it's pretty ironic how prevalent the attack is today in American society. And in this very instance, when it comes to Paul Whelan, like, what about Paul Whelan? What about like this person or that person? And Griner's celebrity, without a doubt, helped bring visibility to her case, ultimately allowing her to leapfrog others in line for her negotiated release. But Joe Biden's tweets this morning reading, "She's safe. She's on a plane. She's on her way home." It was nothing but great news for us. Seldom get any meaningful victories, be they rooted in substance or symbolism. So quite frankly, I don't care. Brittney's release is a victory for Black and queer folks everywhere, and I refuse personally to be dragged into any bullshit debates on whether I think she should have been, or she even deserved to be dealt one for one, or if I think this person's case should have been taken priority over hers. A Black lesbian woman's release was prioritized by a hypocritical world-leading government with such a fucked up track record when it comes to relationships in both communities. The optics alone are not only a win for the Biden administration, but Brittney G's release stands to inspire folks in both communities to reassess their disdain for the nation that we call home, that we fight for, that we die for, but it continually treated us as second-class citizens. So while I invite the debate on like whether it should be this person and it should be that person, like quite frankly, like I don't give a fuck. I think it's awesome that we can see this on a global level, and everybody else can see that, you know what, like a Black lesbian woman was freed. And it's one less thing that we have to complain about, like on a global level. Like, why is this white person taking priority over me? Why is this white person get to always be at the front of the line? So even though it was Brittney Griner's celebrity, her WNBA stardom, that catapulted her to the front page status, and for this story to be like not covered in the beginning as much as it should have been, but like literally like a mainstay on not just our show, but like headlines everywhere. I think it's awesome. I think it's a victory for the United States. And I applaud Biden and his administration for the courage to go through with that and not to fuck us over like once again, because it was very symbolic. And I think a link can be made to the Cold War, the 70s and 80s, where symbolic victories like this sometimes are that much more important than actual battlefield victories. So I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street. This is High at 9 News, and I'd like to open it up and hear thoughts and feelings from everybody else. But on this one,
I think it's kidding me, Rico?
That
you are really putting this out there like that? This symbolic win? How about a symbolic win for safe thinking, which you would say fuck off to? This is such bullshit. And I'm not going to say what about Paul Whelan.
You can say that.
He's on No. Hear me out. I just listened to you for 9 minutes, spew some bullshit, so I'm going to tell you what I think. I don't want to hear about Paul Whelan. I don't care. I want to hear about Mark Fogel, a guy who is sitting in jail a year longer than her for the exact same fucking charges. And it's like, no, he's a poor little white teacher from Pittsburgh who can't dunk a basketball. So the hell with him. I don't care about her being Black and gay. I care
we
about
expect to lose. This is what I'm telling you, Gretchen. We expect to lose.
And exactly
we
like Candy and folks have been
saying,
Rico, let me speak.
I'm okay.
I'm saying,
I'm okay.
If this president really cared about the gestures and what he's doing, let everybody out of prison in the U.S. for the same bullshit that Brittney was in for.
Listen,
I mean, the hypocrisy of this administration
I agree on that.
Overwhelming. It's ridiculous.
I agree with that. 100%. 1 million fucking %. I agree with you on that. But what I'm saying is the optics are inspirational.
The optics are that the basketball player is on the same level as an international arms dealer. Are you kidding me? Let's ask Ukraine how they feel about giving this guy back to Russia.
A million fucking %. When OJ Simpson got off, the entire fucking black community knew that he was fucking guilty. But the fact that he got off and the fact that we were able to see a black man beat the fucking charge on such a national level, that to us is a fucking victory that you cannot quantify, and you, as a white woman, will never fucking understand. And I'm okay with that.
Don't tell me about how I'm a woman and I'm white and I don't understand a goddamn thing. I understand hypocrisy. I understand injustice every day. And this is some bullshit when I got men sitting in Washington taking away my reproductive rights. So kiss my ass, Rico, that I don't understand anything as a woman.
I didn't say you don't understand anything. I said you're not going to understand as a black person how we don't get any of these victories and how it's symbolic. I agree that she should not have taken precedent.
I can't.
I agree.
I wish you could hear my side.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Hold on. Can you do that? Can you do that one that?
Do it. That's
I don't. I'm just. This is just driving me nuts. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I just want to say about this, I am extremely glad that Brittney is on her way home to be with her family. I think anytime that we can get an American freed is a great thing. I do not think that it was an equal trade at all whatsoever. And I do think that this will be a blemish on the Biden administration going forward. But does anyone else have anything that they want to say in regards to this?
What you got, Sean?
You know, it's amazing. I'm sitting here listening, and I got to agree with everybody. Rico's perspective as a black man who's doing the right thing by what America wants them to do, and the injustices his community has seen. I was at Berkeley. Half the group was black and half the group was white when O.J. Simpson's verdict was read in Haas School of Business. Now, I was a dumb white loudmouth. I know that may shock you, saying there's no way they're going to find O.J. guilty. Why? Because you had a predominantly, I think it was an all-black jury or close to it. It was very close. Their perspective is the system's a fraud. How many people of their color do they need to see dead on the street by a system that has fucked them over before they seek satisfaction in seeing someone of their tribe, for lack of a better word, win? And this justice of fairness in this country, spoken by Trump people, they're just mad because the only color that matters to them is green.
I thought OJ got off because if the glove does not fit, you must acquit.
Well, hey, you did. You know why? Because from the perspective as a black person, when you have Furman using the N-word, lying about it, when you have a system of everything that's about it is a lie, the police lie, the system is a setup to begin with.
Nah,
there's no trust.
Hold on. We have Nickolas Wildstar joining us from Clubhouse. What do you have to say, Nick?
Thank you, Sean.
I said they let go of OJ because they wanted to avoid a quote-unquote race war. Remember during that time they were organizing the Million Man March? So with all that talk around millions of black men headed to the state capitol, they did not want that type of confrontation. But I want to agree with, I don't know who was talking, but she was saying about how this Griner bullshit is basically illusory. It's an illusory win. And I would agree. As far as the Biden administration, they could have made a great statement by releasing all of those criminals convicted in the United States in federal prison of the same damn crime by saying those people should not be in prison anywhere in the planet. But I would say even more so to anyone that's listening, whether you're black, whatever the fuck, this should raise a red flag that we as a people are being ran by tyrannical despots. All right. I just read a story The other day, in Indonesia now, if you're caught cheating, you can be thrown in jail. I mean, to what lengths are we going to allow other people to dictate how we live our lives? So much so that we can't even consume a plant that grows out of the ground without being shamed or criminalized because of it. We need to start acting now.
Mandy, what are your thoughts on that?
Amen, Nickolas. Amen.
Yes,
I hear you, Rico. I hear you on that end. It's a good look. It's a good this and that. But also, we're still coming off of Biden's good look in October, talking about this release of people. And I just argued with people for the last hour on fucking Instagram. I shouldn't have, but so many people believe that thousands of people got released in October when Biden did this. And it's just like, if you're not in the cannabis daily, you just believe, hey, fucking Biden just let all these people go. On the Brittney thing, man, I'm happy as fuck she's out. I mean, that's huge. I'm glad she's coming home. As far as a one-on-one trade thing, man, I think we can safely say that the Denver Broncos are off the hook for making the worst trade of the year. That's a bad one.
I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed in the way that this conversation just went, because it really started off with this big, almost a crescendo at the beginning of the show, talking about this is the hottest topic in news today for a multitude of reasons. It could be for the reasons that Rico's talking about, although I don't think that that's the primary point. I do think that this is a human rights issue, and that's it, really, because that encompasses everything, right? At the end of the day, I'm actually kind of disappointed that this conversation just went down a whole rabbit hole about race and not focusing on what really just happened. So I know we're running out of time. We have to go to the next story. It's unfortunate that we spend our time this way.
Anyone else? Final thoughts, Gretchen?
Let's roll.
Let's go.
I'm ready for the next story. Let's go.
Yes.
Up next, we got the longest continuously operating retailer in the game, always smoking the best weed in the world every damn day. He's known to the Mar-a-Lago staff as Gucci Blanco, hustlers in Detroit's White Gucci, in West Hollywood, he's known as El Presidente. Y'all know who it is. Coming up next is Jason Beck. What do you have for us today, my man?
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. Today, my story, as promised, involves Mark Zuckerberg, because Mark Zuckerberg is being sued for aiding and abetted aggravated marijuana investment fraud. A court in Luleå, Sweden, granted the right to Swedish attorneys Lars Olofsson to proceed with the case against Meta Platforms Incorporated CEO Mark Zuckerberg. The lawsuit argues that the Facebook platform has a responsibility for its role in recent marijuana investment scheme Juicy Fields, according to Olofsson. The rapid decision by the court in just 36 hours of filing is already a massive win that will send a message to others we have in our legal path that we are proceeding ahead full steam with other cases in the meantime. The alleged pyramid scheme granted 66% return, or guaranteed 66% returns in 3 months, but suddenly froze all cash withdrawals and deleted its accounts from social media. The fraud, which impacted hundreds of thousands of people around the globe, caught Olofsson's attention. The attorney is now planning to file a class action lawsuit against several social and news media platforms, which he says helped forward the scheme. I'm now taking legal actions against Facebook, Google, CNN, and YouTube to begin with, Olofsson told Green Market Report. At the time, in a quote, they say, all of them have allowed Juicy Fields to expose themselves on their platforms or magazines, and not just normal accounts, but paid ads. Olofsson also plans to target the German, Dutch, Swiss, and Cyprus governments for what's called a gross lack of their financial authorities having not seen what was going on. There were some 125,000 investor accounts on the platform at the time it collapsed, exposing the reality of fraud. Olofsson is representing roughly 800 plaintiffs, though he says the $2.5 billion in those 125,000 accounts is probably long gone. He says, I know they have run away with the money, Olofsson said. Olofsson seems to be setting a precedent by going after tech giants for due diligence concerning illicit operations run by their clients, advertisers, and affiliates. He is going after media and bank giants, which also profited from Juicy Field's illegal operations in a way made it possible. In a quote, large corporations have done no due diligence on who they've done business with. Banks have massively failed in their compliance, and government authorities have not seen what was going on right before their eyes, Olofsson said. On top of that, several high-profile individuals who have been advocating about cannabis legalization and cleaning up the cannabis industry have been on the payroll of Juicy Fields and been paid for more than their usual consulting fees. Meta's first data center outside the U.S. was established in 2011 in Luia, just within the Arctic Circle, covering about 1 billion Facebook and Instagram users, which includes most of my clients, Olofsson said. The argument is that this is the place where the crime was committed. It is via these servers that my clients have been exposed to Juicy Fields fraud. The main marketing was done through social media, where they communicated with possible investors and created groups where they could interact between each other and create a sense of community, and also recommend others to come along and make the investment, reads the lawsuit. Olofsson argues that Zuckerberg was highly negligent as Meta CEO, failing to supervise who was using the company's platforms. Further, it claims that his negligent behavior was a violation of the company's own terms of service, which is considered a crime under Sweden's penal codes on fraud. A violation of such statutes carries a mandatory sentence of 2 to 6 years. He also noted that subsequent lawsuits are to be filed in both Sweden and internationally. The attorney previously revealed that even though the investigation is challenging, to say at least, it has already successfully identified 70 individuals, 60 banks, and 40 companies associated with Juicy Fields operations and advertising. I have tons of info about many companies, individuals, and government authorities who have failed their responsibility or facilitated for Juicy Fields to be able to do sales and marketing, Olofsson said. And the scam has been going on for more than 2 years. This includes a large number of banks. Well, do you guys think Mark Zuckerberg is going to ended up and get extradited out to Sweden? I'm going to digress. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News.
Hell no, he ain't.
Not a chance. Not a chance. Not a chance.
I do find it extremely interesting that this somewhat is a similar argument that the federal government is using to rein in on big tech too. Nothing? You guys got nothing on this?
I don't think this is going to go very far. It seems a bit ridiculous.
No? Yeah. I mean, the servers are in Antarctica. Are the aliens controlling the servers?
I don't think this is going to go very far. It seems a bit ridiculous.
All right. Okay. All righty, guys. Well, I mean, just saying. Just saying.
Is he still worth $1 billion? How much did he lose from the down?
I don't think he's lost anything yet. But we are kind of short on time, and we do have another big hot story coming up.
Keep it moving.
Coming up next, she's a political strategist by day and a baker by night. A true female multitasker who can not only bake up a storm, but also knows how to make the sausage on Capitol Hill. She's the founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own Washington insider, taking off the apron and her sweater. It is none other than the Gretchen Gailey.
Good afternoon. My headline is coming from Marijuana Moment, Sean's favorite publication. And the headline is Marijuana Banking Sponsor Lays Out Plan to Advance Reform After Exclusion from Defense Bill, Sharply Rebuking Senate Blockade. The House sponsor of marijuana banking legislation said yesterday that following its lack of inclusion in the National Defense Authorization Act, he will be immediately getting to work to attach the reform to pending omnibus appropriations legislation, though he added that he's lost sleep over recent setbacks and has unrepeatable things to say about the Senate over their inability to advance the bill. Representative Ed Perlmutter made the remarks at a House Rules Committee meeting on Wednesday, where members took up the large-scale defense bill, which advocates and supportive lawmakers hoped would be used as a vehicle to advance the Safe Banking Act. but which ultimately omitted any cannabis language when it was posted on Tuesday. Meanwhile, a key committee chairman said at the meeting that the Senate is just one vote shy of passing marijuana banking reform, though he also signaled that the next step is to pursue it through appropriations legislation. It seems apparent that a key factor keeping the measure out of the NDAA was Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who talked about opposing the effort to include safe banking in the defense bill on Tuesday. Emotions are charged over the banking reform issues on Capitol Hill. The bill could still advance this year, but the path forward is unclear, and hopes were high that the NDAA would be the vehicle to finally get done. One piece I really wanted to add to this was the piece that Perlmutter has championed, which is safe banking, which I think is a crucially important piece of legislation, House Armed Services Committee Chairman Adam Smith said at the rules hearing. Under the status quo of federal prohibition, the system is currently a mishmash hodgepodge in states that have legalized across the U.S., with some financial institutions showing willingness to service state legal cannabis markets, while others remain fearful of facing federal penalties. That contributes to the largely cash-only basis that these businesses operate under, making their enterprises and employees targets of crime. Smith added that he believes the process that Mr. Perlmutter and others championed made a huge difference. As I understand right now, there are 59 votes in the Senate to pass safe banking. The legislation as a standalone needs to reach a minimum 60-vote threshold to advance passage. I will emphasize the safe banking bill as a standalone piece of legislation in the Senate. They can go ahead and take it up and pass it. So the effort to push this bill forced the question and got to 59, and we're not done yet. This bill can be brought up. The appropriations bill are coming, no doubt, which we will do. And what I know Mr. Perlmutter would do and others is get that 60th vote. Perlmutter, who sits on the Rules Committee, delivered a solemn statement about the setback at Wednesday's meeting. We have a rule in the Perlmutter family: no bad news after dark unless you can do something about it. But unfortunately, he received his bad news from Smith on Saturday and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Tuesday night, he implied that the news was the exclusion of the Safe Banking Act. He said, "I didn't sleep at all last night either, but you all have done everything you can to keep this in, and obviously it's not a defense piece of legislation. I appreciate that. The Senate, if I really told you what I thought, it would be unrepeatable, and I'd certainly get into trouble. I'm not giving up on this darn thing yet." The congressman, who is retiring at the end of the session, adding that he will need bicameral and bipartisan support if we try to attach it to the appropriations bill. I would say, I believe that the best path forward is for Chuck Schumer to grow a pair and put the safe banking up as a standalone piece of legislation. I would say that Smith is completely uninformed when he says there is only 59 votes in the Senate. As we count it, there are 65 votes. There is no reason that safe banking cannot pass in the Senate on its own. Chuck Schumer has just screwed this up to the nth degree and cannot get behind what he has done. I would not try and put this onto appropriations. If Republicans have a brain in their head, they're just going to put forward continuing resolutions till the end of the year, push omnibus into the new Congress, and Republicans like Kevin McCarthy are going to have no appetite whatsoever to address safe banking. If you want safe banking to happen, it must get done in the next 2 weeks. And if Chuck Schumer really cared about cannabis, he would do it. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Well, I don't think he's going to get it done before the break, but I know Sean has a veteran's perspective that he's been wanting to share on this topic. Are you ready, Sean? Is Bowser ready?
Sure. Why not? First, let me just say I actually agree with the marijuana moment's perspective. I think if you want to talk about this as a class issue, if you want equity in terms of black and brown and gender from the actual people, not just the elite, are we ascending Kanye West and the CEO's wife to the Illuminati and then calling that equality? Or are we actually going to try to uplift the people, the rainbow coalition of people? And I think how you do that is you have to open up the finance system. So safe banking needs to pass for any perspective you have, unless you want to keep the legal industry handicapped. And that's where I'll disagree with Gretchen. It wasn't Chuck Schumer screwing it up. This was done on purpose because he's bought and paid for by a system. End of story. And that is because the other side is better financed with smarter people at the table. And this goes to the real issue. And that is the tax and regulate system is morally corrupt. It is going to give us dysfunctional markets. which is going to fuel the illicit market throughout this country, which is going to elicit calls for enforcement by the petty bourgeoisie, the newly raised legal industry, to crack down, and we're going to end up with Prohibition 2.0. And is equality in what we want is to now shoot the equal number of black men and white men in the back and call that a good thing? Or do we want to stop a fraudulent system from waging war on effectively poor people? And that's what we're ignoring. When we talk about race alone, it ignores the bigger issue of class, and that's where we find commonality. And that's where we have to unite as an industry, because I guarantee you the prohibitionists on the other side are uniting. They've been united, and that's how they get shit done, because they have a lot of money and they spend it. And until we unite, we're not going to get shit done.
I'm sorry, Sean, I'm trying to understand your position here. Are you saying that SAFE should or should not pass?
I think SAFE needs to pass, but we are pushing, the Washington insiders are pushing a fraud model called the tax and regulate. Let's look out here in California.
Right, so. Go ahead, Nick. What do you have to say?
Go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, with that being said, as far as the system being fraudulent, why would you want to give them more power and expand the amount of control that they have over our economical system? I mean, the issue with safe banking is that, yeah, it's going to advance, and, you know, more people in the industry are going to be able to do banking legally, but the people in the back of the bus are still going to get left out. And that's what the people of color complaining about this safe banking issue are basically saying. As much as you want to level the playing field and make it to where everybody is able to, you know, be prosperous in this industry, that's not how things are going to work out. So we need to take that into consideration first. And this NDAA, just so you guys know, it's always packed full of fat, which is basically bullshit. 1 year Obama passed it, and it included indefinite detainment of Americans for whatever charge, and it's still there. So we need to be paying attention to this NDAA, which is a annual budget that our Congress approves.
Yes, the National Defense Authorization Act.
And I would say to you, frankly, the NDA should not have been the vehicle to try and push this forward. It's been stripped out of the NDA before, so I don't know why they thought all of a sudden Republicans would get on board with this. I disagree that SAFE will do nothing for minorities. There are plenty of minority businesses that are hurting in this industry because they don't have access to banking. And that's taken the Cory Booker approach, that it's only for, you know, the rich white guys. I mean, that's not what SAFE is just about. And people need to recognize that it will help minority businesses as much as they want to pretend that it does nothing. I'm sorry that there are not individual specific carve-outs that says, if you're black, if you're brown, if you only have this so much money, that's what we're going to do for you. It doesn't say that. It does not. But it does something. And you guys keep talking about symbolic wins. If you could get some financial banking for this industry, that would be much more than a symbolic win.
Yeah.
For the black.
Go ahead.
Hold on, as more than a huge symbolic win for black people. Is that what you're saying?
Hold on. What are you saying, Nick? What are you saying, Nick?
I'm asking you, like, is it a symbolic win for black people? I'm trying to understand.
Your House representatives in your state to make your community banks able to allow cannabis banking. In some states, they already allow it for community banks because they're not owned by the big conglomerate. So that's what you want to do. Take the money out of the big banks, Wells Fargo, Chase, all of these big banks that are going to continue to profiteer off of the little guy, and give that money to the smaller banks, to the community itself.
There are over 400 banks in this country that are doing businesses with cannabis businesses that are state chartered banks. They're credit unions and folks who have been willing to get into this fight. And Rico, I was being sarcastic about this being a symbolic win. That's what I was suggesting.
I was just asking for clarity on it. That's it.
Let's not forget that you're right, Gretchen. I mean, those banks do exist, and they are for the wealthy business owners in cannabis because of the immense fees that go along with having access to that kind of banking. So, it's not. It's still
100%, Mandy. I mean, there are some banks, but clearly the system is not working, and we need to work with Screw working with Washington. I'm over it. I say burn the place down. But that's the only way that it's going to happen.
Yeah, Gretchen.
I mean, and we all know Mitch McConnell hates pot. It's been very made apparent. However, he's in charge. You got to deal with the man.
The hedge fund industry is banking the big marijuana industry here, and they don't want competition. So you have to understand, a lot of people who think we're on the same side, we're not. And at the end of the day, the people on the other side have smarter people at the table. End of story. And if you want to get into the real issue about marijuana moment, let's look where he comes from, who he worked for, trade industries, and the vast majority of the trade industry associations in D.C. are about collecting money so they can sit around and play the Washington game. They're not about doing anything. They're not being honest with what's really going on behind the scenes.
I also want to clarify for you, Sean, when I say that Schumer screwed it up, I'm not saying he's a moron. I'm just saying he screwed it up in general.
I think the real test is yet to be seen, because the banking industry, we're in a huge bubble there too, and it's about to crash and be glorious again. It'll be interesting to see if Joe Biden or whoever the next president is, if they bail them out just like Obama did.
They will.
They
will.
Good point.
Remember, the Fed is privately owned with no transparency there, Rico.
That's true.
What about what's really going on?
Straight the fuck up. All right.
Very true.
The thoughts, opinions, and shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of individual speakers and not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, territory, or any of its authorities. The guests in this room do not establish any fiduciary responsibility or relationship. Our sponsors do not imply or constitute any endorsement by us or the expression of any opinion whatsoever on the part of any speaker on stage. If you are an easily offended person, we don't give a fuck. Leave.
Sorry.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you. And mention you'd like to get High at 9 for 10% off your full order.
In an industry full of negativity, littered with folks on both sides of the aisle, aiming lower and lower, this dope dad from the great purple state of Texas decided he'd be hitting the high road, leaving obsessions behind. A wise man once said spaceships don't come equipped with rear view mirrors, and it is all good. He's the host and co-creator of the show with the same damn name, Hitting the High Road, and I'm sad that I didn't get to hang with him last time he was out in LA. But you know what? He's come to the stage right now. Bring us our next story, Stone Slade.
Thank you, Rico, for that most excellent intro. Today, my story comes out of WXXI News. New York issued its first retail cannabis licenses last month, but amid unexplained delays and a lawsuit, many are left wondering just when the first adult use dispensaries will be open for business. Two such people I know are our own Gretchen Gailey and Jason Beck, who have a friendly wager that seems to inch closer to a Beck victory with each passing day. The State Office of Cannabis Management's Control Board approved 28 business applicants and 8 nonprofit applications from a pool of more than 900. As we've reported before, the first licenses are going to go to applicants who were convicted of cannabis-related offenses before the legalization of adult use cannabis went into effect, and also show that they have run a successful business. Don Andrews, who holds one of those licenses, said, "It's kind of been a big dream of mine to own and operate and run a dispensary just like those are run on the other side of the country." He currently owns and operates Vape City, your typical head shop with 3 locations in Schenectady. However, he's not allowed to use that license at one of his established businesses because Andrew and other retail licensees were issued licenses under the state's conditional adult use retail dispensary program. Under that program, retail licenses must work with the state dormitory authority to create turnkey stores to sell cannabis in person. Andrew said, "They said there would be a turnkey storefront ready for us sometime in the foreseeable future. I'm not too sure when, but they did say in the future that we would be getting a location to where to run our operations out of." Control Board Chair Tremaine Wright said it's a wraparound program where they're providing support for build out, design, as well as loan dollars for those new retail operators. And they're also helping with site selection. So it's a very limited scope. This is not regular adult use licenses that will allow a retailer just to incorporate cannabis into an existing business. Those licenses will be issued starting next year. So if you're paying attention, Gretchen's window of winning opportunity is closing quickly. In the meantime, Andrew says everyday people are confused. Well, those are the unexplained delays. Let's not forget about the lawsuit. A lawsuit filed last month claims that law violates constitutional commerce protections because it favors New York residents over out-of-state residents. The suit is currently holding up 63 of the eventual 150 licenses, including some in Hudson Valley. Because of the lawsuit, the board's not yet approving retail licenses in several places: Finger Lakes, Central New York, Western New York, the Mid-Hudson Valley, and Brooklyn. As 2023 quickly approaches, farmers who have already harvested their crops are nervous about it going bad before it hits stores. Alex Keenan is a co-owner of a grow in the area. One of the area that's in one of the areas impacted by the lawsuit. He said there is nothing else stopping them from being able to sell their crops to retail stores moving forward. We'd love to be able to sell our product to some local shops, but we're looking for silver linings here. We're very close to New York City, and there's going to be dispensaries there, so maybe we'll be okay in the short term. We just hope this lawsuit gets resolved quickly so we can start selling in our own backyard. Given the small number of retail licenses so far, they still could face losses. With nobody really knowing the timeline of when to get shops open, the illicit market has flourished. Wright said that the state is aware of that problem. They're working on it with multiple state agencies and law enforcement partners to crack down. OCM also recently just announced that it will allow for delivery of cannabis by the retail licenses while the stores are being set up. However, it's unclear how that will work. Andrews, who was hoping to hear more details this week, said, I guess it's just kind of like the waiting game. We're here kind of waiting to see what to do. They did tell us to submit car registrations and car insurance for the vehicles that are going to be used for the delivery service, but that's literally all they've asked for. They haven't really told us anything else. So quick recap. One, the goal is to open shops within the next 24 days. License holders are eligible to open this year, have to wait for the state to provide design, build-out assistance, loan, and location services, which hasn't even begun. The lawsuit is holding up 63 of the possible 150 shops that could open, and the OCM was going to allow these businesses to deliver. However, there's no plans of how this will work. So it's hurry up and wait for the bud to dry out in New York City, and the only thing that's becoming clear is that Jason Beck gets a little richer this New Year's. I'm Stone Slade reporting for the High 9 News Hour.
That's right.
It's not done yet.
Gretchen.
Just like,
right.
That's right. Safe banking, it's not over yet. I'm not throwing in any towels.
Oh man, you know what? You want to put a bet on whether or not
we got 3 weeks.
You want to bet on safe banking on whether or not it gets through?
What, you want to bet?
Are you that confident?
What bet are you not going to pay on now on? No, I'm not taking another bet.
I pay on all my bets, Gretchen. You haven't won anything yet.
Gretchen, I'm with you. I'm keeping it all
hopeful. And frankly, and I am not trying to backpedal on anything. I know how y'all love a backpedaler.
Yes,
however,
I will say,
a boot like me.
For New York is throwing this together amazingly fast. I know everyone's like, oh my God, it's so slow. But the typical process of getting adult use market up and running is 2 years minimum. So I commend them for trying to push this forward. I mean,
I commend them.
I have faith. I'm having hope in a Christmas miracle.
I hope they do. I just don't see it.
Yeah, right.
Just
the Christmas miracle is what it's going to take.
Yeah, all me and Jason are saying is from the beginning, they tried to do the same thing here, and it failed miserably.
Hey, Governor Newsom said it was going to take 6+ years to get Prop 64 working. How the fuck is that going? I'll leave it at that.
Well, I mean, in your definition, you say it's not working.
It's not working for the people.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe it takes a little longer than 6 years.
Yeah. Okay, 80% of the market by the government's own admission is illicit. Anyone who calls a legal market or where the total market 80% is in the illicit market is a liar or ignorant, naive, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a multiple truths.
All right.
Truth in everything.
All right. Well, seeing as how it looks like I'm winning that bet with Gretchen. The next speaker's story has to deal with another bet that I'm going to be winning with Gretchen. Because coming up next, he's a blunt blowing Fresno-based man of the people, representing the Black conservative voice whose existence Joe Biden would love to silence for even acknowledging it exists. Here to change the narrative, it is the governor himself, Nickolas Wildstar.
What's up? What's up? And thank you, Jason, for that intro. Thousands of Connecticut residents convicted of cannabis possession will have their records cleared at the start of next year. Governor Ned Lamont announced Tuesday that records in about 44,000 cases will be fully or partially erased in January as part of the state's 2021 law legalizing cannabis possession and retail sales, especially as Connecticut employers seek to fill hundreds of thousands of job openings. An old conviction for low-level cannabis possession should not hold someone back from pursuing a career, housing, professional, and educational aspirations, Lamont said in a written statement Tuesday. Once a resident's record is erased, they can tell employers, landlords, and schools that the conviction never occurred. People convicted of possessing less than 4 ounces of a non-narcotic, non-hallucinogenic substance between January 1st, 2000 and September 30th, 2015 will automatically have their records cleared on January 1st. Others will have to petition the state Superior Court to have their convictions cleared. The erasure of certain low-level cannabis convictions is part of a larger effort by the state to clear the records of people who remain crime-free for 7 to 10 years, depending on the conviction. Under Connecticut's Clean Slate law, passed in 2021, the person must also have completed sentences for all crimes for which they were convicted and meet other eligibility criteria. Eligible offenses include most misdemeanors, most Class D and Class E felonies, and most unclassified felonies with a possible prison sentence of 5 years or less. While the process is moving ahead, it is not without some delays, of course, because it's the damn government. The state has invested $5 million in technology infrastructure to make the records cleared digitally. The Criminal Justice Information System Governing Board, however, said the process has been moving slower than initially expected. They are also expected to be questions over some technicalities. Some of the technology upgrades are meant to allow criminal justice agencies to send and receive data on whose offenses can be erased. There are also some legal questions and concerns that have arisen from the legislature. The governor said in a statement, the automated system is expected to be fully implemented in the second half of 2023. This is Nick Wildstar, aka the governor, back up in the house at the High 9 News Hour. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Oh, that was great, Nickolas. Nickolas, we have Lakeisha up from the audience in Clubhouse. What do you have to say on this, Lakeisha?
Good morning. Thank you, Jason. I'm greatly concerned about this because there are reports from people who are actually in Connecticut that said that it could now be the end of 2023 or even later before that. And then there's a lot of conflict regarding this because the governor, his wife, is appointed head of the Cannabis Angel Investment Corporation. And it seems like their daughter is now picking up land in Connecticut for cannabis.
Oh,
that is, I know it's a total just crap show, right? And again, my statement is always, why are we leaving this up to them to do this? Because we cannot count on government to actually do what they're going to say. This is affecting people's lives, their livelihood, and just to function as an adult in our society. So I'm going to be following this, and I'm going to keep you guys updated.
Definitely appreciate
Thank you so much, Lakeisha.
Yeah, I appreciate you covering this story, Nickolas, and the angle that you're coming from. I think it stands in stark contrast to Pennsylvania, where apparently less than 250 people were actually released or affected positively by the Biden's extension. I guess it was less than 250 people were actually benefiting from this. We shouldn't be relying on government for any of this stuff, but unfortunately that's where we are. And until we stand as a people, let aside our differences, like, you're gonna have people just like waiting for this shit to happen. Fuck this government.
Cheers to that.
Perfect system. What are you talking about?
Just saying, Gretchen. All we got to do is run a few miles north. Oh, go ahead, Mandy. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said cheers to that. Telling me how you feel about it, Rico.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I just want to say I'm a big supporter of Nickolas. I hope he runs for a political office. He has the Weak Warriors support. He's my man. I love him, and he's absolutely right with what he's saying. And talking about we do not want to give the government more power, because what's happened is the elite are using regulatory capture to force us all into financial slavery, and that's the issue with the Controlled Substance Act. And we need to take that on, and we're only going to do it united.
That is very true. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Real quick on that, Sean. Coming from a veteran's perspective, how can we move forward? Because on the highest levels of government, they seem to care. They say that they care about veterans. They seem to care about veterans' rights and doing right what was done wrong to them. Like, how can we come together with the veterans and move forward?
We need better
get them
leadership.
to actually listen to our needs.
We need better leadership. We need change, and we need better leadership. End of story. We need leadership that isn't bought or pay. Our government works brutally efficiently because it's government by the few, for the fewer, at the expense of all of us.
Yep, very, very true.
And that's only going to happen when we get out and vote. And let me give a shout out to the results in Georgia, where we didn't let a yes man to the money system on the ballot.
Agreed.
And while Warnock's far from perfect, all you have to do is look at the insulin law he backed. It's a start. And that's where safe banking, it's a start. It is not the answer. But are we going to forsake the best we can get and have no progress? Or are we going to deal with the system and negotiate as it's set up? And until we get better leadership in Washington, we're going to be given the short end of the stick. And that's why maybe a little bit of progress, fight for more power, disintermediate the money a bit, and the worst Supreme Court decision ever where they said money was speech. Until we address this thing brutally head on through brutal honesty, and we want to dance around the subjects, nothing's going to get changed. We need to elevate the discussion, what's going on everywhere, especially in the public.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. Nick, you had something still to say on this?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Sean, for the love. I appreciate it, man. God bless you.
And
God bless America, brother. We can get it back for us.
We have El Guapotron coming up to the stage. Are you?
Yeah, we get to hear El Guap.
Guap. Go for it, Guap.
The Guap 4000.
You got to hit unmute, bro. Are you with us, Guap? I see you here.
They're silencing him. They
are. Joe Biden.
All right, I think we're going to move forward. We got him?
Yeah. Yep. He hasn't unmuted. Let's move it. Let's move.
All right, she's a New York City-based 25-year board-certified medical doctor with a Michigander roots and widely respected expert in CBD. Here to serve us up our daily dose of truth and bring us home today. And I'm sure she's tired of our fucking going back and forth all day long. She wants to get to the fucking facts. Give us our dose of excellence, Dr. Mary Clifton. What do you have for us today?
Oh, thank you, Rico. I just mostly want to go back to bed. I got the flu last night, and so you guys are getting my last upright hour of the day, and I'm going to be snoozing.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mary. Thank you.
Thank you for checking in with us.
Well, I found a great article about Death by Gummy Bears. The company that does Death by Gummy Bears and wonky weed marijuana edibles are accused of selling products that 50 times more powerful than allowed. They're a Minnesota-based company, and the Minnesota Pharmaceutical Board filed a civil lawsuit this week alleging that this retailer was selling edible products containing more than 50 times the state limit for THC. Apparently, the company that operates under a business conglomerate called Northland Vapor is under the rules in Minnesota of not having more than 5 milligrams of THC per piece of candy and no more than 250 milligrams in a whole container. But they had a whole bunch of containers that had 100 milligrams of THC per serving, 2,500 milligrams through the whole container. I mean, like a whole bunch. When they rated them, 28,000 packages of edibles containing 100 milligrams of THC, 112,000 of a different line, also containing 100 milligrams of THC per serving, and 2,310 bottles of Wonky Weed's THC syrup, which contains 700 milligrams of THC per bottle. They failed to comply with the investigators' requests for the results of mandatory testing procedures. And they've even said that one person has died due to exposures to these high THC products. But I didn't hear about that death, and I couldn't find anything about that death, in the search before I came to the show today. The Northland products came back to say there's no evidence of any harm arising from the proper use of Northland products. The state's effort to suggest otherwise is shameful. Northland is a small business committed to making a quality product and now must fight for its life against overzealous regulators in St. Paul, looking to make a splash with their newly adopted law. So, the other issues that the Minnesota Pharmaceuticals Board lawsuit is saying is that not the Wonky Weeds, but the other product here, the Death by Gummies, has a little bear on the front, which is also going to be a problem for marketing to kids. It's a little teddy bear. I think they missed an opportunity to do a really cool like Death by Gummies with an actual skull and crossbones, which might have been kind of sexy and better than a little teddy bear. But anyway, a lot of problems with this company. And thank you, Jason, for telling me. Hope I'm going to feel better soon. I hope I'm going to feel better soon, but I'm going to enjoy the weight loss of 2 days of not eating. And anyway, this is Dr. Mary from NYC. I don't think this is the only company that's doing stuff like this, but, unfortunately, this is going to be a big loss for this company to lose all of these products and to have to, work further with the Minnesota Pharmaceutical Board.
I think the actions of this company and others who may be doing the same thing, it's just not good for the industry whatsoever. Yep. I mean, people need to know what they are consuming. And if you take a gummy and all of a sudden you're knocked out, I mean, clearly, it's what's her name, the Maureen Dowd effect. People aren't going to come back to this. They're not going to keep going. It's completely irresponsible. And it does not give us a good look in anyone's eyes. And this is what keeps lawmakers up our ass. I mean, if people need
it's really a dramatic difference. 5 milligrams per gummy, and they're developing gummies that are 100 milligrams per gummy. They're just, and I see in the comments people saying, for some people that are taking cannabis regularly, that really isn't that big of a deal. But for a lot of people, like you say, Gretchen, that's going to be a very hard to tolerate dose. That's a very high level of THC for a lot of people.
And we know that so many novices enter the market trying an edible, trying a piece of candy because they feel that's safer, or, it's been a manufactured product that might be more reliable than just taking a hit or trying a dab or, whatever else.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that.
My issue with this is that, people like me, I'm sitting back here from a marketing and sales perspective, and I'm constantly looking at ethics and branding. And if we're trying to overcome stigma, then what the fuck is this? Literally poor choice in marketing, poor choice in branding. That person should be fired, whoever came up with it.
Yeah, a teddy bear on the front is really a bad idea too. And the comment by Ben, state limits are medically unrealistic. I agree with you that putting limitations on THC for medical cannabis is unrealistic, but people should be able to follow limits for edibles and try to keep the whole system safe for everybody.
Agreed.
All right.
Oh, yeah. What were the name of these, right, Dr. Mary? Were these called killer bears?
No, they're called Death by Gummies.
Death by Gummies.
Death by Gummy Bears.
I mean,
do you think this? With that stigma train?
Yeah. Do you think this? Do you think this company, just fell into their branding a little too hard?
I mean, they might have eaten too many of their own gummies, and then came up with that genius idea. Did they really sit around a table and go, "This is our $1 million name"? Like,
right?
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of other Death by Chocolate products, so I could see how someone would come up with it, but given the stigmas around cannabis, it doesn't work.
Don't you mean someone copy it, Gretchen?
It's a Death by Gummies with a teddy bear on it. Like, I think you could have a lot of fun with Death by Gummies if you did something that just, fit Death by Gummies better than a little white fluffy teddy bear.
I have no issue with the dosage because people do need different dosage. Okay. But my issue really is the way that the naming, that everything consumer facing about this product is.
That's terrible. But the doses, no, if somebody who's not into that, like my wife, 5 milligrams, that's it. 10 milligrams, she's pissed off at me that I gave her too big of a gummy. You throw 100 at somebody, that's throw 100 at my wife. Because, oh my God.
Just because a lot of people have low tolerances.
Label, right? She's not just going to crack it open.
But it's not labeled, right? Was it labeled or was it not labeled?
No, they're labeled as 5 milligrams.
They're labeled. They're labeled. They're labeled. They're labeled.
They're labeled as 5 milligrams. So
yeah,
that's not that's
not cool.
That's 100. It was 100 milligrams.
But it wasn't labeled that way. It was containing 100 milligrams, right? Is that what?
Yeah, no, it was labeled. It contains 100 milligrams. Yes.
No. I'm
back to the marketing.
Read the facts. I know you don't
what
like
are you
facts,
saying, Gretchen?
Jason. If you look at the label on the jar, it says 250.
I'm not looking at the jar.
Well, clearly you don't look at the facts. 250 milligrams for 25 count.
Yeah.
See, so it is labeled. That's what I said. It was labeled.
If someone knows what they're getting into, then I'm not. Then it's not bad.
Label. It was an accurate label with the dosage of the product in the package.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Well, if it was accurately labeled, or if they just rated them because they were producing products that were against Minnesota's limits.
I mean. But I thought their claim on this is it's like Delta 8 gummies, and so there is no, or their HHC, and so there is no regulation on their strength. I think that's what the company was actually trying to claim on these.
That's a good point.
Yes,
stronger mids. And
yes, but I do want to say that just because there are people that have very low tolerances to cannabis doesn't mean that the people that have extremely high tolerances to cannabis should be prohibited from getting those stronger dosages. I mean, back in the medical days, one of my most popular items was 1,000 milligram of a brownie. Okay. And I would sell so many of those. It was ridiculous. And there are no more 1,000 milligram edibles available for those consumers to purchase. And just because they're not available doesn't mean that demand is not there.
I'm not suggesting that higher dosage products shouldn't be out there.
I wasn't trying to say you were at all. I was not trying to imply that at all, Gretchen.
About your dosing. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with that.
I misunderstood. I thought the labeling was like.
Yeah, I was just trying to let Stone know that that it was labeled properly. That was
all right. Yeah, then I take back what I said.
Okay.
All right. We have reached the top of the hour, everybody. It's been a great one today. Lots of vitriol, lots of hatred, and lots of good discussion. Everybody that was tuning in and saw a little bit of the craziness here. We all love each other, and we always have these great conversations. It's never any love lost between anybody on the stage here. So thank you all for tuning in for yet another episode of High at 9 News. You can always catch us weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our live audience members and online supporters tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. Our vetted industry correspondent team tuning in from all over the global community, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and adding your own respected opinions to the conversation. Thank you, Jaja Simone, holding things down continuously over in Clubhouse, and everybody over there showing us love since the State of Cannabis News Hour days. Thank you so very much to all you haters in the room, in the comment section. I love you all. You make me stronger and make me smile even bigger every single day. Please keep coming back. And push that subscribe button. How about that? Lastly, Cannabis Sativa, the mother of all plants. We love you. We thank you for giving us a reason to do this every single weekday. It has been Thursday. What is it? December 8th. The show is now over, and you all have been blessed with the top industry headlines. So we hope it was enough to put in your pipe and smoke it for at least until tomorrow. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, signing off. And please remember, when life gives you no place else to turn, you can always turn the fuck up. Jason.
Oh yes.
What you got for these people?
Yes, we have Guap. Guap's gonna wrap us out. Guap, you got something for us?
Guap dad.
You gotta unmute. I cannot unmute you, Guap. Oh well, maybe next time, guys. Run that video, Adam. Let's take it home.
Love you, Gretchen.
Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.